Welcome to the InfoWars Nightly News. It's August 30th, 2013. I'm Gigi Arnetta, and this is what tops the news.
Tonight, Syrians claim they know who is really behind the chemical attacks. Then, an Iranian commander says a strike on Syria would lead to the imminent destruction of Israel. And France says it stands with the U.S. in punishing Syria. That's next on the InfoWars Nightly News.
And I want to do it, and I choose evil, because I'm in charge, and I'll do whatever I want. That is the essence of evil.
We begin tonight with an InfoWars exclusive. Syrians in Ghouta claim Saudi-supplied rebels behind chemical attack. Ghouta, Syria, as the machinery for a U.S.-led military intervention in Syria, gathers pace following last week's chemical weapons attack. The U.S. and its allies may be targeting the wrong culprit. Interviews with people in Damascus and Ghouta, a suburb of the Syrian capital, where the humanitarian agency Doctors Without Borders said at least 355 people had died last week from what is believed to be a neurotoxic agent, appeared to indicate as much anyway. The U.S., Britain, and France, as well as the Arab League, have accused the regime of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad for carrying out the chemical weapons attack, which mainly targeted civilians. However, from numerous interviews with doctors, Ghouta residents, rebel fighters, and their families, a different picture emerges. Many believe that certain rebels received chemical weapons via the Saudi intelligence chief, Prince Badr bin Sultan, and were responsible for carrying out the dealing gas attack. Iran's Revolutionary Guard chief, Jafari, says that a U.S. strike on Syria will mean the imminent destruction of Israel. And he said it would also prove to be a second Vietnam for America. Like Hitler, who started World War II, the U.S. is igniting World War III, he said. Mohammad Jafari also said that Iran plans to work with Russia to stop the strike against Syria. The Zionists should know that a U.S. military attack on Syria will not save the fake regime from the resistance, but it means the immediate destruction of Israel, Jafari was quoted as saying. According to the state TV report, President Rouhani said both Iran and Russia would work in extensive cooperation to prevent any military action against Syria. Rouhani also called such military action an open violation of international laws. So Iran and Russia are joining forces to stop the strikes against Syria. And Alex Jones had a chance to talk with Russell Brand about the war efforts in Syria. Now you can catch the entire piece on Infowars.com. But here's a snippet.
Russell, I want to talk about some good news from my perspective. Nobody's saying Assad's a good guy, but the West did start the war, did fund the rebels starting 2.5 years ago. And for the first time since 1782, when the British Parliament voted to end the war against the colonies, they voted down the Prime Minister in the UK, David Cameron, wanting to go to war. Obama, he has a 9% approval rating on this war in a Reuters Washington Post poll. I mean, when Bush did all these lies, he had a 72. Now it's very unpopular. I see this as a sea change where libertarians, conservatives, liberals, everybody I know sees through this and knows that it's about the takeover of the Middle East that Wesley Clark exposed, the 7 nations they wanted to target. What is your view on Syria, and are you optimistic and excited that the UK Parliament, for the first time in 200 years, did the right thing on war?
I certainly agree with you that that vote is as a result of widespread disillusionment with the political process. I think that obviously the Middle East is one of the most complex issues in contemporary world affairs and has been for millennia. What I believe is that our focus has to be the humanitarian aspects, the displaced refugees and the hundreds of thousands that are suffering as a result of military conflict in that area. What I also believe, Alex, is that these affairs are conducted behind a veil of disingenuity and duplicity. It's very difficult for any of us to understand what's truly happening. I've not read that book you said, that 7 Nations thing, but essentially my experience tells me that whatever they are telling me, I intuitively don't trust. It's typically about the interests of big business and government and how they align with one another. So that's what I'm going to assume until I hear otherwise. Like the claims for going into Iraq and Afghanistan were duplicitous, and so my the starting point I have is going to be not to trust any advocacy of military action in Syria. Whilst it's not an issue that I can pretend to fully understand, it seems like it's extremely complex, that there are many factions fighting there. There's no clear goodies and baddies situation.
Absolutely. Ron Paul recently came out and said he basically thinks it's a false flag. There's evidence that the al-Qaeda groups staged the chemical attack, but it is obviously an incredibly complex situation.
I went through the Pentagon 10 days after 9/11, and an officer from the Joint Staff called me into his office and said, I want you to know, he said, sir, we're going to attack Iraq. And I said, why? He said, we don't know. And then I came back to the Pentagon about 6 weeks later. I saw the same officer. I said, why haven't we attacked Iraq? We still going to attack Iraq? He said, oh, sir, he says, it's worse than that. He said, I just got this memo from the Secretary of Defense's office that says we're going to attack and destroy the governments in 7 countries in 5 years. We're going to start with Iraq, and then we're going to move to Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Iran.
Protesters in Times Square think the U.S. should butt out of Syria. Now, much unlike our president, who wants to go into Syria, people are marching near the U.S. Armed Forces Recruiting Center, demonstrating, and some are carrying Syrian flags and chanting, "Hands off Syria." And we need jobs. We need peace. U.S. out of the Middle East. Anti-war demonstrations were also being held in Washington, Los Angeles, Chicago, and Dearborn, Michigan on Thursday night. So pretty much there's a round of applause here. The United States citizens are standing up and saying how they really feel. They think we should be out of Syria. Good for the U.S. citizens standing up and saying something about not going to Syria. It seems like the rest of the world wants us out of there. But we don't have to worry, because the French are the ones that are on our side, unlike Germany, Britain, and many others. French President François Hollande said Friday that the UK parliamentary vote against taking military action in Syria would not affect France's will to act alongside the United States in punishing Syria for an alleged chemical weapons attack. Hollande told French daily Le Monde in an interview that he supported taking firm punitive action over an attack he said had caused irreparable harm to the Syrian people, and said he would work closely with France's allies to punish the Bashar al-Assad regime. So it's a good thing to know that France stands firmly with the U.S. Confidence, yes. And Rand Paul has a few things to say to President Obama. He says that he should probably read the Constitution to avoid allying with al-Qaeda. Senator Rand Paul stated today that the U.S. government should obey the Constitution to the letter, and that only Congress, not the president, can declare war on Syria, which he does not believe is an immediate threat to U.S. national security. If the president is contemplating war or contemplating offensive action against Syria, there should be a joint session of Congress, and he should try and convince us for the need for it. The president does not have the power under the Constitution to unilaterally authorize a military attack in a situation that does not involve stopping an actual or imminent threat to the nation, Obama said. Yes, he should read the Constitution, including the part about the Second Amendment. And Obama and Biden seek to have more gun control because we don't have enough. So Vice President Biden seeks action on guns, striving to take action where Congress would not. The Obama administration announced the new steps Thursday on gun control. One new policy will end a government practice that lets military weapons sold or donated by the U.S. to allies be reimported into the U.S. by private entities. Joined by Attorney General Eric Holder, Biden formally unveiled the new measures Thursday while swearing in Todd Jones, whose confirmation to the head of BATF after 6 years of political wrangling to fill that position. The Daily Caller reports that what this executive order does is it kills a 110-year-old civilian marksmanship program. That's really what this executive order does. And for today's quote of the day, who controls the issuance of money controls the government. That's Nathan Meyer Rothschild. Get your copy of the new InfoWars magazine. Go to InfoWarsShop.com and check it out today. Your purchase supports this broadcast. Pick up your issue today. And next, Larry Pratt is going to talk about this new executive order that Biden is pushing and our Second Amendment.